Tucker opened his eyes again. Jeff lunged at him. Tucker managed to dodge the knife and pulled a small pocket knife out of his back pocket. Jeff instantly recognized it as the same pocket knife he had thrown at Wendy that night. How the hell did he get it? Tucker pointed the knife at him. "Let's go, pretty boy," Tucker said through his teeth. Jeff stood up a little straighter and put his hand on his chest. "You really think I'm pretty?" he mocked. He chuckled and then crouched to prepare for another strike, but Tucker had suddenly gone pale. "It was you, wasn't it?" he murmured. "You were there, laughing all this time I talked to Abby." Jeff shrugged. She was quite amusing. Tucker gritted his teeth and swung his balled-up fist at him. Jeff casually grabbed it in midair and squeezed as hard as he could, causing Tucker to cry out in pain. But it wasn't the hand he was holding that knife in. Before Jeff realized this, Tucker swung his knife-wielding hand around and stabbed Jeff in the side. Jeff howled agony, but didn't loosen his grip. Jeff looked down at the knife and practically black blood flowing from the wound. It had been a long time since he felt pain like this. His victims rarely fought back. They sort of liked it. He brought his own knife to take a swing at Tucker. But Tucker pushed the blade in deeper, causing Jeff to finally let go. He backed away and pulled out the small knife before Tucker ran at him and tackled him to the floor. Jeff dropped both knives as Tucker sat on his chest and started punching him in the face, roaring with every hit. Tears ran down his face as visions of Abby and Wendy's smiling faces flashed through his mind. Jeff flipped him over and punched Tucker as hard as he could. He wrapped his arms around Tucker's neck to choke him. But the sharp pain in his side allowed Tucker to gain the upper hand. Tucker pressed down on the spot where he had stabbed Jeff and pushed him off. He then stood up and commenced kicking and stomping on Jeff repeatedly as he writhed around on the floor, holding his side. Getting exhausted, Tucker straightened up and walked over to where the bloody pocket knife lay. Crouching down to pick it up, he sighed. "She was the best person I've ever met, and you took it away from me. You took her away from me," he muttered dryly. Jeff sat up on one elbow and giggled as he wiped his face. Tucker turned and glared at him. "Laugh all you want, you wouldn't be laughing when the police get here." Jeff stopped giggling. "The police are on their way, huh? Guess I'd better wrap this up." Jeff hopped up and marched towards Tucker. Tucker stood and aimed his knife at him. "This is for Abby and Wendy!" Tucker swung the knife at Jeff 3 times, but each swing missed. It was clear that Jeff had been holding back before. Tucker had held the knife over his head and tried to stab Jeff. Jeff simply sidestepped and struck Tucker's back as he went past him, causing Tucker to fall on the floor with a loud thud. Jeff grabbed Tucker by his hair and stood him up. Before Tucker could react, Jeff hit him in the gut a few times and banged Tucker's forehead into nearest wall and let him sink to the floor. As Tucker tried to stand up again, Jeff picked up his knife and went over to the bed and sat down. He looked at the dead girl and chuckled. "Not so tough now, is he, Clarissa? No wonder. How should I kill him?" He paused for a minute and put his ear close to her slightly open mouth. What's that?" Paused. "Oh, that's no fun." Another pause as Jeff tapped his cheek with a knife. "You're right. It needs to be quick since the police are on their way." Tucker finally stood up. He yanked Jeff up by his hoodie and slammed him against the wall. He raised the pocket knife, preparing to take a life for the first time. Now die. Tucker was just about to sink the knife into Jeff's heart. Someone in the distance stopped. It was the sound of the police sirens, meaning that his saviors were almost there. He was distracted for a moment, but it just long enough for Jeff to turn the table. Before Tucker could even breathe a sigh of relief, Jeff knocked the knife onto the tables right beside him, and turned it around in 2 quick moves. He covered Josh's mouth with one hand and held to his throat with the other. As Tucker tried to get free, Jeff whispered in his ear, "More than a head can drive in the land of dreams and nightmares," Jeff said. As he said, he slid the knife across Tucker's throat. Tucker's bodies were lit, and Jeff wasted no time at hoisting him out and carrying him through the small door. He cringed a bit from the pain in his side, but he knew there wasn't much time. Through that door was a small room with nothing but metal operating table. He would often use his room of torturing people before he a small sound escaped Tucker's lips. I'm so sorry. Jeff realized he was still hanging on to life by a thread. He laid him out on the table and quickly tied his hands and feet down. That way he could just lie there and bleed to death. He ripped the bottom half of Tucker's shirt and wrapped it tightly around his waist to use as a bandage for the wound. Jeff started to leave as he heard the front door open downstairs, followed by 2 voices. He had an idea. He wanted to leave his mark on this little town before he left for good. He had 2 fingers and pulled blood that was forming on Tucker's neck and wrote the final message on his wall. He tiptoed outside and headed toward the cornfield, careful to avoid the 2 cops that were exploring the sides of the house. It sounded like a female cop. She must have found Tucker in his little message. The 2 officers who were outside quickly ran inside, guns drawn. Jeff smiled inwardly. His job here was done. Just as soon he was about to make a run for it, he heard crying. He turned to see that the female officer run through the door, followed by a male officer. He decided to put down the computer in the comm to listen in. Mason, get yourself together," the male officer said, turning her around and shaking her. "I didn't sign up for this, Jane," she cried. "The only reason I became a cop in this town was because nothing like this ever happens. You know exactly what you were signing up for," he replied sternly. He let go of her and combed his fingers through his graying black hair. "Murderers and psychos are everywhere, not just in big cities." The female officer pulled her jacket tightly around her. "Maybe so, but this? What kind of human being would do that to all these poor people? And those kids, Jane. They were the same age as your daughter. They probably went to the same school, didn't they?" "Yeah, maybe," he said quietly. "Come on, let's go inside and wait for a homicide to get here." As they walked back inside, Jeff decided he would stay a little longer. Someone needed to teach all those cops a lesson for interfering. He especially wanted revenge on that old fart. Officer Jane, was it? He'll teach that bastard a lesson for calling him a psycho, starting with his little daughter. Jeff wiped the blood off his knife and grinned as he slunk back into the shadows to plan what he would do next.